Batman and Robin, issue 22, legacy number 88. Philip Kennedy Johnson writing with Javier Fernandez and Carmine Domenico on the art. So, yes, Robin has still been taken by Memento, who may very well be that detective. Although my theory at this point, and it kind of heavily hints at it in this issue, and I said this last issue, I think, when I was talking to Matt about it, but I don't think that their old, mentor, the detective, I don't think he was Memento, but I think Memento took over his body after the result of that story.
I'm 100% sure that is what's happening, because we see in the flashback sequence near the start where he's investigating and he's having a not interrogation, but he's meeting with someone who's in the mental asylum, and he talks about how it has no flesh of its own. It wears us like clothing. It wears my son's face, and it's pretty clear. I think the implication is that Memento is some sort of spirit, demon, something, and it's possessing bodies and hopping bodies as it goes down the chain.
Yeah, and it always seems to act up because it needs a new body. Like, it always seems to get a new body at the end of one of the murder sprees.
Cycles,
if you will, yeah. Honestly, I mean, this has been such a fun arc. I think the art's been very moody and really worked. The GIANDOMENICO stuff solid for the flashbacks, but it's just the moody present day stuff from Fernandez that's hitting.
The GIANDOMENICO stuff in this issue is literally 3 pages, to the point where he's not even credited on the cover. It's such a small contribution to the overall page count. Obviously still deserves his internal credits. That's all there. Probably should have got a cover credit, but it's not. But I think there's more like just how little he is there. Yeah. It's not really his book, and that's fine. So the art's fine. It's good, but it's not important. If it is bad, it probably doesn't ruin the issue. Whereas the Fernandez stuff has to be excellent, and it is.
Yeah, no, the Fernandez art's been great throughout the whole thing. There's been so much mood, so much atmosphere to everything. The one critique really that I've had, and I've said it on a number of issues at this point, is Batman's just absolute stubbornness to refuse to accept that there's anything supernatural to do with Memento, and it's especially annoying in this issue because he goes to see Etrigan.
Yeah, there was a point in the previous issue where they talked about a demon with an unusual cadence. I'm like, oh, so Etrigan then. So Etrigan's evolved. So it is supernatural. Well, I mean, if we're calling DC Universe's demons supernatural, which is, I guess, up for debate, right? Because they are physical things that do exist. That's like a proven fact. But if we count them as supernatural...
Yeah, I mean, I would say they're supernatural, even if you're... Like, really all I'm meaning with supernatural is the idea that they come from...
a magical place.
Yeah, demons, hell, ghosts, whatever.
Right. Again, this has definitely been spoken about on this arc already. Batman believes in this stuff because it's not a matter of belief, it's fact.
He knows
He's dealt with it multiple times. And when they're mentioning Etrigan, not by name, but very clearly Etrigan in the previous issues, and Batman just goes, yeah, Etrigan, okay, I know who this is. Let's go and talk to him. And we get to that point here, but it is frustrating. Like, just go straight to it.
Yeah, so Lautrec brings up that Damien said something about like a demon that speaks in verse or whatever the line was, and Batman immediately goes, yeah, I know who that is. And I'm like, so you immediately thought of Etrigan, your demonic ally that you've worked with before, you clearly know who he is, which we knew you knew who he is, but you're bringing it up in the arc now, so we're staring it in the face.
And so there's no question of, are they retconning Batman's history for some reason? Like that's not what's happening here.
Yes, he's just refusing. And I guess you could maybe try and explain it away as like, because Memento was this case that he encountered before he became Batman, and it's such a formative like experience for him that he's refusing to accept that it wasn't just some serial killer that had like a solution. Maybe that's where the stubbornness is coming from. But it does just feel weird the way he discounts any possible supernatural or, spiritual elements.
So strange, because I feel like a lot of versions of modern Batman when he's doing the training pre-Batman stuff, have him encounter magic, supernatural elements, usually with the Zatanna link now is kind of brought in, and you go through the Zatara stuff. So if he does usually have this early encounters with the supernatural anyway, I don't really see why this particular case, just because it's pre-Batman, would have that fixation of, oh, well, it can't possibly be anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Just the idea that Batman doesn't take formative experiences and learn, that's annoying.
Yeah, it's the one weird thing about this story that just feels a little off. But everything else about it, like the actual, the art, the build up, what Memento is and what he's doing, and like, that issue where Batman was going through the city and seeing all the horrific things that had happened because of the gas or the poppy that he'd like breathed in, like that stuff was great. And and I'm even enjoying some of this stuff that we're doing now with like these like street kids that Batman's kind of like enlisted to go looking, and they find like some of the underground part of the city, and they even have a small reference to No Man's Land here, with the earthquake. And I'm like, oh man, that's a hell of a pull. Now 25 years after the fact. But
Wow.
Yeah, so that's something we should bring up. We should also bring up that Latrox figured out that Batman, not that he's Bruce, because she doesn't really know Bruce, but she's figured out that this was, Jack from her training days with the professor.
Yeah.
So, which makes sense. It makes sense that she's sort of figured this stuff out, and she even sort of says, "Hey, was all of that like? Did you already know you were working towards this? Then was that all about becoming this?" And he's like, "Yes," because I'm Batman.
He's always been Batman.
Yes, quite right. So yeah, they go find Etrigan. Well, to find Jason Blood more specifically, and then sort of insist they have to talk to Etrigan. So yeah, they get Etrigan to come out, and the art here is really good with Etrigan in the mirror before he actually transforms as a. Or even he doesn't even really transform. He's in the reflection the whole time, I think. Until later anyway, where they're sort of basically he's like showing Batman like some of the early crime scene stuff, of like the first like Memento, the first version of Memento. These two brothers, like way back, like this all sort of comes back to the start of this, because they talk about Nicodemus, and they talk about the because it's Nicodemus Crow, and he had a brother named Edmund, and it's like they had these poppies or whatever, and like the brother died, and presumably the Nicodemus became Memento in some form, or maybe became a vessel for the demon that would become Memento, or something like that. But it's like, okay, this is cool. I do like this like kind of gothic history of Gotham stuff that they're kind of putting in here, tying it to like the olden times, and kind of saying that this is something that's been sort of tied to Gotham for forever. I'm kind of into that in sort of like a mythical sense.
I like that as well, and I like that it doesn't feel like that. It's not like rewriting Gotham history in the way some stuff is. It's just more like, no. This started in Gotham, and it's connected to Gotham here, but it could have happened anywhere, and like it's not exclusive to Gotham, as we've seen it's happen in a lot of other cities.
Yeah. So yeah, we go back to those kids who are searching around. They find some blood. And Memento comes jumping out at them, and that's basically the cliffhanger at the end of the issue. So yeah, these kids are in danger, and maybe this is more kids that Batman will blame himself for putting in trouble because he's kind of sent them off and they've found the killer. I suspect they'll end up being okay, but you never know. Maybe Johnson's got some nasty things planned before we're done.
Maybe. There's a lot in this issue about how he's kind of a terrible person for putting Damien at risk already, right? And we know Damien's pretty capable.
Lautrec's very critical of where he's put Damien, yeah.
Quite fairly, to be fair. So the idea that he's now putting these untrained children at risk, that's going to land badly, I think.
Yeah. And also there's the implication here that he wants Damien to be his next host, his next vessel. for presumably the next like 60, 70 years, however long Damien may end up living for. But yeah, I mean, I think this was a really solid issue. I loved the creepy backstory stuff they got to. I expect there'll be a little bit more of these Crow brothers, or at least how Nicodemus Crow kind of like got to like the Memento stuff more directly. And I always love when Gotham goes into the underground, forgotten part of the city. I know it's based loosely on what city is it in the US, but there's actually like a part of is it maybe Seattle, maybe? I don't know. But there's a city in the US where actually this kind of exists, where there's like an underground city that's been forgotten, and like the actual city's on top of it. It's based on like a real I don't know if it's as big and as expansive as you see it when they put it in comics or movies, but there is kind of something that's it's based on that does exist. It's such a cool, eerie idea that there's literally full streets under the city that are just abandoned, that somehow they've been covered up and everything's built on top. It's eerie. Cool.
It is, yeah.
Perfect for Gotham. So, yeah, no, I mean, this run is still really solid. All in that one relatively big nitpick of like Batman's like refusal to just even accept that there's something like, beyond the normal realm at play here is kind of weird. And it was frustrating just as Batman fans before the book started directly referencing other things that prove that he should not be doubting it as much as he is. But hey, it is what it is. What are you giving Batman and Robin?
I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think really good, really solid. Probably it's just a little straightforward at this point in the arc, but I'm looking forward to, getting the conclusion coming up soon.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards the 8. Mainly, I love the stuff with the kids. I love the conversation between Batman and Letroc. I love the backstory stuff. I guess the only real critique, other than my one Batman character complaint, is that I wouldn't say it has like a great structure that made it feel like it all came together in a satisfying way. It feels like there's a lot of important things happening in this issue, but it's just kind of like a assembly of different things that need to happen, as opposed to something that feels coherent together as a piece. So
there's no driving narrative force structurally for this issue. It just stuff happens.
I think when you're reading this in the collection and in the trade or whatever, it'll just completely flow nicely in the middle of the story without even a moment's thought. But as like an individual chapter, as a monthly release, it does feel a little bit like that to me. So
yeah, I think that's why I didn't really go for the 8. That's why it ends up being the 7.5. Just things like that.